We used to know that modern humans left Africa about 60,000 years ago. And then there are new evidence that they actually were moving around earlier. And so there are a lot of projects going around.
Yeah, because they didn't know there was vibranium under the soil. Yeah. So. The world has gone bonkers. We now live in George Orwell's 1984. War is peace, ignorance is strength, and crazy is normal. How do you stay sane? Vito Hernandez is an environmental archaeologist. He teaches science, technology, and society, and is the public information officer of AGHAM. A lot of us, when we saw Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, we thought, we want to be archaeologists, and yet we don't know exactly what an archaeologist does. I'm sure it doesn't involve, flicking a whip all the time, I hope. But what exactly is archaeology?
Well, simply put, archaeology is the study of culture change through its material remains.
That's why it involves so much digging?
Well, yes, that's one. You might look at digging as a euphemism for gathering data. In this case, because data is the past.
Yes.
Right? Most of it is underground or in ruins or, in fact, just around us, except that we have to do detailed analysis of those materials in order to get some kind of chronology. And only then, after creating that chronology, can you start to understand why and how culture changes.
And so, what sort of archaeological work is being done in the Philippines? Because a lot of, the general public is not aware until we read something in National Geographic that, whoa, they found something in the Philippines. We don't know just how much work is being done around the islands.
Well, compared to our Southeast Asian neighbors, not much, I would suppose. Why? Because in terms of a population of practicing archaeologists, we're less than 50, if I remember the data right, in terms of professional archaeologists. And
are they all affiliated with the University of the Philippines?
Either the University of the Philippines or the National Museum of the Philippines.
Okay.
So those are the two main institutions where
and there's just 50. So technically, if
around that.
If you're in high school and you don't know what to do with your life, consider archaeology. As in, it's a growing industry, right?
Yes, there is potential.
Yes.
As regards industry, it is dependent on industry. It is dependent on how nation and our leaders value our history, our culture.
It depends on how much they value it and will put their money where their mouths are.
Yes.
So,
definitely.
Which leads to the next question. How is archaeology funded in the Philippines?
Let's talk first about the University of the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
So, I am an archaeologist, not directly, not officially associated at this moment with the Archaeological Studies program, although I do have projects with them.
Yeah.
I'm now with the College of Science, Science and Society program. But faculty members or academic staff
Yes.
are allowed or have a chance to apply for funding. Whether the funding available from the university is sufficient, that's another question. There are opportunities from the university system to get bigger funding, and these opportunities are usually funded by the OST and
Okay,
AST.
the Department of Science and Technology, yes.
It's where,
It's not like I'll give you a grant to dig and then give me something in 2 months.
it takes time to produce actual archaeological knowledge.
Yeah.
And we have small gains, definitely. And sometimes the small gains are spectacular in terms of being newsworthy. But otherwise,
Example of a small gain.
you know that you get a rhino, and then you know that that rhino is dated to around 700,000 years old, and that it has cut marks. Right. So in fact, that landed in a major publication, Nature. And but does that tell you a whole lot about prehistoric culture back then? Definitely not.
It only told us that there was a rhino.
There was a rhino
with cuts.
with cuts,
Yes.
and most likely there were people, but we haven't found those people. Right? And those gains, right? A lot of those gains, the big ones, the recent big ones, were funded by foreign collaboration, or were made possible because we had foreign collaboration.
Okay.
And so that's another way that we Filipino archaeologists are able to not necessarily get funding, but get our work out and achieve more in terms of understanding culture change. Right. As far as if we're going to be technical about it, what we're able to do is add to the writing of Philippine prehistory.
Yes.
But we haven't moved beyond just putting together the historical data, because first after we put that together, that's the time we start to look at the patterns, understand why things have changed, and that's really the archaeology.
Well, you know, if we know very little about prehistory, we already know very little about recent history.
That's
so it's
true.
all, you know, it's all the trend. Can I offer you something to drink?
Just water, please. Sorry.
Okay, can we
Just,
can we have a glass of water for our guest? Yes,
my
okay.
gosh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So the archaeology
Thanks.
the archaeology department of UP was in the global news recently for the discovery of Homo luzonensis
Yes, yeah.
in northern Luzon. And so, you know, we all read about this like, wow, we're in Nature, wow, we're in National Geographic. But what does it mean for Filipinos that there was this fossil found and it's so ancient, it's older than we thought?
It should be a source of pride. You know how we're always like, I was just going over my social media, and a very good friend of mine, a resilient scientist based in Barcelona. Too bad, you know. I mean, she has a project here in the Philippines, but why isn't she here? Because there's no funding. But she just said, is there anything going right for the Philippines? You know, but when you get news like this out, we should be happy. That's it.
Yes,
generally.
that work is being done and
Yeah.
there are results.
Yes, definitely. I mean, after that find got out, or you know, we were keeping it. You know, we wanted to make it big news, you know, as
Yes.
being part of the university community. And when it popped, right, everyone was sharing it. That's great.
Yeah, but you're talking about the academic community. What about, you know, your average man on the street hears that there was a fossil excavated? What is the significance in his life?
Having more of us archaeologists and other science advocates saying, you know why this is important? Because even for the fact na, oy pare, meron kaming matatandang kultura dito sa amin. Okay na yan. And I'll take from one of the questions that you sent to me through email. How do I react when people say the Philippines has no culture?
Yes.
Right. Well, of course, when you are a student of or a scholar of culture, the first thing that you might say is that's totally not true. There is so much culture in the Philippines because we've been colonized, we've been, you know, taken over by all these countries, and you know, we're so receptive, we're such a nice people. So there is so much. We are culturally diverse.
Well, to the man on the street, the significance is not so much that we have ancient cultures present here, but that we have an academic community that is doing something to establish our provenance, as it were, as a culture.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's very masturbatory in practice.
For instance, archaeological teams have to deal with local governments and communities in the sites that they are working on. So how does that work? As in, how do you go to a place and say, excuse me, we're going to dig up your field because we think there's something under here that would be of interest to scientists?
I've generally found Filipinos to be very welcome to our gestures of wanting to dig their fields. Sometimes you'll have to pay rent.
But won't there be the assumption also that there's buried treasure there and they're trying to take it away from us?
Definitely, definitely. Like one of the longest running projects out of the University of the Philippines, the Palawan Prehistory Project or Paleohistory Project run by Professor Dr. Victor Paz. We've been going back to Palawan for more than 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And even on the
Which in the general scheme of things, if you're looking at, tens of thousands of years of history, 15 years is like a blip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it took over a decade for people to accept us as not treasure hunters.
Are people used to the presence of treasure hunters?
In particular areas, definitely. Agusan, Surigao, Batangas.
Because the strange fact is, a lot of what we have in terms of artifacts were found by treasure hunters digging around, hoping to find the Yamashita treasure or whatever, and then they come across some ancient pots. Now, it's pots, we don't like them, they're not gold. So they
until
sell
they
them
found
to collectors, yes.
Yes, until they found out that we can make money out of these pots. I would suppose that there would be very unique finds by these treasure hunters that
So we can agree that there are more treasure hunters than archaeologists in the Philippines, right? And they're certainly better funded.
well, yeah, yes.
Yes, because some of them have tractors, backhoes, whatever.
Well, when you talk about better funded to continuously dig.
Yes.
But
It's kind of their life's work.
yes. But in terms of generating data and information,
Not of course.
yeah.
They're not interested in the data. Yes.
yeah, because just one radiocarbon date costs how many tens of thousand pesos, and to actually get a story, you need a couple of radiocarbon dates. So easily, if you request funding from the university, you can easily go to like $500,000 just to date one site, if you really want good information.
Just to figure out how old something is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So those guys obviously don't need that. They just need money to feed
They
their
just want
diggers.
something that they can sell. Yes.
There are lots. Recently, I am was part of a project in Agusan, and I didn't meet a lot of them, but the stories are like, my God, there's everywhere, and
Yes, and Agusan in particular, because there's the famous Surigao hoard that in the 80s someone was digging up a construction site or something, and then they found all this old gold.
right.
And then people tried to protect the site, but here come I don't know, they're not even technically treasure hunters. They're not exactly looters either. They're kibitzers.
Yeah,
It's like,
just-
there's gold, so we'll get some.
It's amazing. Not just the Surigao hoard. When we were in Agusan, one of the sites there were like at least 2 stories of they found something, they called in friends, they came to dig, and they left in 2 jeeps of old pots, gold artifacts, and whatnot. And that didn't even get out. That didn't even get out to national news. So it happens all the time, right? Batangas, Calatagan, Batangas is just a treasure trove. So there are lots of treasure hunters there, definitely. But also, the Ayalas own most of Calatagan, right? The Zobel. So, my God, they're already rich, and they're sitting on land that's rich with archaeological.
Yeah, to say nothing of sunken galleons. I'm sure there are sea-based treasure hunting activities.
Oh yeah, actually more there.
Yes.
And the treasure hunters, the sea-based, the maritime treasure hunters are very well funded, because
Yes,
these
and
are
they would
foreign-
need more complicated equipment for that.
And in fact, they actually collaborate with the National Museum. So it's like the Philippines recognizing, that's the sad part, recognizing that we don't have the equipment, we don't have the funding to do very expensive maritime archaeological work. we need to collaborate with these very well-funded foreign treasure hunters. Technically,
Yes.
that's what they are. And then because we have, I would say, good cultural properties laws, we don't go home empty-handed. Definitely, because the National Museum is involved, the information that is acquired from these digs underwater are kept by the National Museum.
Right.
And then there's some 60-40 deal there, and so
60-40? What's 60-40?
it's like I think if that's how the rules or the policies go right now, the funding, the outside funder, usually a foreigner, comes in, goes for these underwater wrecks, and so whatever material comes out of that, 60% goes to the National Museum, including all unique and rare finds.
Okay.
And then
40%
40 goes
technically,
technically
officially goes to them.
goes to the foreign funder, and then they can do as they please.
Suppose you were to find something in your garden that looks really old. What should you do? I know that you shouldn't take it out and wash it. What is the procedure for this? And why is it important that you leave it in the ground?
The procedure there, if I am correct with the IRR of the Cultural Properties Law, RA 166, if I'm not mistaken, is to inform the National Museum of the Philippines as so the National Museum as the caretaker of all cultural
As in, you
properties
just
of the land.
find out the name of the National Museum online and you call them and you say, hello, I found something in my garden.
They will direct you to the Cultural Properties Division, in which case they should find the person to go out and verify.
Yeah, okay. What I'm getting from this conversation so far is that archaeology requires tons and tons and tons of patience, which obviously disqualifies me from the archaeological profession. And then apart from, the tons of patience, you have to deal with bureaucracy, and then you have to deal with very stringent standards of proof, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so how do you manage to maintain your sanity given everything that you have to deal with? As in, just establishing your reputation as an archaeologist must be hell.
On a lighter note, how do most archaeologists deal with that? Yeah, alcohol. Yeah. But me personally, I'm not anymore directly associated or officially associated with the Archaeological Studies program. I do a lot of science advocacy work. So working, and with AGHAM, Advocates of Science and Technology for the People. So I feel very alive working with the masses, and being able to use some of my archaeological background and help people with their struggles. So that keeps me sane. I mean, it's a mad world, but some people might think you're.
Do you have
like
any side interests that are sort of connected to archaeology? Like, do you have a screenplay of? Are you writing a screenplay of archaeologists, an archaeological expedition finding the lost cities of something under Navotas, Malabon, whatever?
Actually, no. I have like hobby horses in terms of research or what I want to find out.
Like, for instance, if you were to have a personal holy grail, like if you had a dream expedition finding, what would it be?
I can answer Holy Grail. It's just to continuously...
Because everybody wants the holy grail.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that type of person. I just like the struggle. I'm the guy who likes the process, the how we get there. So I guess it's really, emancipation of the masses from
yeah, and I'm thinking that the significance of archaeology to the lives of your average man on the street would be to prove that we have a past and to show the importance of this past, because how the hell are we going to know who we are if we didn't know where we came from?
Yeah, well, yes, definitely. I mean, if I can share one of my hobby horse.
Yeah.
Sort of like a holy grail for me in a sense. I've been involved in a lot of excavations near the coast of Manila Bay. And I've realized that there's a lot of tambak, reclamation, in the past, right? and so I've been working
Yeah,
with
what's
other.
the problem with reclamation? What are the possible consequences?
Well, a lot. Recently in the news, if you've seen that this truck just went through one of the roads near
It just
Ross. Yeah, and they were talking about sinkholes, and that's a reclaimed area. Of course, it took how many? It took almost 100 years. The reclamation of Ross Boulevard began in 1904.
Okay.
And so that's one possibility. Direct impacts would be worsening floods inland because you don't anymore have outlets. Of course, the unthinking development, right? I mean, I'm just glad as an archaeologist that I have data that can contribute to what other scientists are talking about in terms of it's a bad idea to reclaim. Right? Or we can do things better if we just want, I mean, of course, government wants to do this because build, more money, right?
Right.
But it's not really serving, it's only serving a select few. I mean, you build an Erythropolis in Bulacan. Who among those fisher folk can afford a flight to the US, right? Or who can afford a condo unit if you're a fisher folk, right? So you're not, right? And these people contribute
You're
to
not
our
serving
food.
the community.
Yeah.
Well, I just had a brainwave during our discussion that if you want more funding for projects, you should sell politicians on the idea of destiny. It's like, oh, we're digging something in your constituency, and we're going to find this ancient thing that must be linked to your ancestors, thus proving that you can be governor for life or something.
Oh my God.
Hitler was a major funder of archaeology. Yes.
The Marcoses.
Yes.
I mean, I think
It goes together, no?
Oh, yeah.
Strong men and archaeology.
there is in archaeology there is nationalist archaeology. Archaeology is used towards very fascist ends.
Yes.
China uses archaeology to put a stamp that everything.
Archaeology and concrete, two things
Yeah.
that fascist regimes love.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, so when is the next time you're going to go on a dig, or have you said goodbye to digging?
Oh no, I'm leaving for a fellowship, hopefully if all papers go well. And so I'll be doing a lot of digging in mainland Southeast Asia. This time to contribute to world prehistory.
Okay, and before we end this, if people want to study archaeology or consider a career in archaeology, where should they go? What should they do?
We don't have an undergrad, so
Okay,
we don't have an undergrad in archaeology.
So what college should
Usually-
they apply to?
It's something like I'll tell people do geology or biology, or physical geography, But usually people will go into.
Oh, it's kind of like journalism. I tell people, go to sociology,
Yeah,
psychology,
yeah.
or something.
But most people will come from anthropology or history. Yeah, that's the stereotype.
But so, first steps, what do they major in? I guess the social sciences, history, something you truly love.
To develop into a very good archaeologist, take your liberal education seriously.
Yeah.
What particular course doesn't matter, as long as you.
Yeah, okay. So you already
bask
have
in
your
the GE.
degree, and then
Yeah.
what should you do?
Apply. Go to the archaeological studies program. We have the nicest admin people.
It's connected to what? The College of Science, Social Sciences?
No,
and-
we are an independent unit that answers, if I'm not mistaken, directly to the Office of the Vice President for Academic Affairs. We are working towards becoming.
Okay,
a
just
school.
go to the building next to Fine Arts.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Okay.
Albert Hall. For those
Yes.
who are interested, we have a website, and you can find the contact details there. Or if you happen to be in the Diliman area, just go to the Albert Hall, which is right beside the College of Fine Arts, and look for the admin office. Lovely people.
Yes, and suppose people want to volunteer during their vacations. How do they volunteer?
Yes, Katanawan. We have the Katanawan Archaeological Heritage Project, which is in Katanawan, Quezon. And every year there's a call on social media and around the university for volunteers, student volunteers. and you get a chance to dig with undergrads, anthropology, archaeology undergrads from the Australian National University and the University of the Philippines. So I know that that's an actual ongoing program, and it's and a lot of its graduates, volunteer graduates, have moved on to doing master's degrees. So that's one project. If you have so much time in your hand, you know, people in archaeology are very welcoming. So
Yes, and do you also have those talks, right?
every Wednesday on a regular on the regular academic calendar,
Yeah.
between 11:30 to 1, we have what we call the Binalo Talks, and it's not necessarily talks on archaeology. You know, archaeologists need
Talks on
to
a range of subjects.
range of subjects, but definitely most of the people who
And
will
then you
attend,
can meet archaeologists, the people you might end up working with.
definitely.
You had a project where you were collecting old toothbrushes?
We have several projects.
Yes.
Every now and then, or continuously, we accept donations of old toothbrushes because that's very useful in archaeological work.
What do you do with them? As in, you clean the pots with them?
Clean the pots, we clean different artifacts with them. You
Okay.
know. And instead of like going out and buying toothbrushes, you know, old toothbrushes will.
Old toothbrushes are good kasi they're soft na eh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Aside from that, you know, archaeologists, since we do a lot of work with communities, some of our professors have done good work to build on heritage projects. So it's great. We don't just dig and publish in scientific journals.
Right.
We are able to bring the archaeology directly to the community and
Right.
find ways to connect it to their present culture. And so, at least in El Nido and Palawan, you can see that the community is very empowered. You know,
Yes.
you don't just go and say, "Hey, you know, we're gonna grab your land." They're gonna say, "Hey, we've been around quite some time, and we know what our lands are all about and what we have here." So yeah, but that project, my God, more than 15 years.
Yes, very cool. And you know, when I'm rich, I'm going to donate money. No, I'm going to set up a fund for an archaeological excavation so you can find me some infinity stones and I can snap my fingers and the people I hate will disappear.
I'm with you there. Hopefully, I'm not one of them.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.